G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life, and my sincerest apologies to all of the Honda fans still left with this channel because I've bought another BMW. Campbell from the Cheap Police Car Challenge with the 740i also owned this 530i, and finally, after years of E34, E38 and E39 ownership, got sick of owning older BMWs that break down all the time, and so decided to buy a much better and more modern F10 535i, and I bought his E34, and today we're going to be restoring it to its former 1989 glory with a whole lot of mechanical improvements along with a full interior and exterior detail.
The story behind my 530i manual is a rather interesting one. A family bought it brand new in the UK in 1989, but later moved to New Zealand in 1996. Naturally, it was registered here and had a period-correct UJ4407 number plate put on it. The same family owned it for another 26 years, passing it through 3 generations and putting a whopping 240,000 miles or 386,000 Ks on it. Campbell bought it in late 2022 near Waipukirau and drove it home. Funnily enough, the in theory reliable E39 he used to get there broke down south of Palmerston North, and the old E34 had to tow it all the way to Levin in the pouring rain. But eventually, with both cars home, he set to work replacing a number of things. And I mean a number of things. He installed a new intake, injectors, fuel filter, fuel pressure regulator, spark plugs, distributor, ignition leads, water pump, thermostat, radiator hoses, expansion tank, the fan and fan clutch, hood struts, valve cover gasket, flex joint and transmission mounts. He also did a service, got a new warrant of fitness, extended the registration, among many other things. We polished the car about a year ago and it actually started to look really good, but with a 750iL project taken over and maintenance required on his 525i and 530i, soon the E34 fell into a state of disrepair once again, after spending exactly the amount of money on the number plate on parts alone, and sadly having both his 525i Touring and 750iL written off by drunk drivers, and the 740i from the Cheap Police Car Challenge costing a fortune to fix. We convinced him to make the wise choice to keep his first E39, but daily a much more modern F10 535i, selling his last remaining old BMWs.
Which leaves us here. I now own a 1989 BMW 530i manual with an almost brand new engine bay and a box full of spare parts. So let's get on to installing what parts Campbell left behind for me and getting it all polished and cleaned up, ready for sale. So we need to bolt this back on because that's not quite on properly. One of the bolts snapped on the water pump, so there's a very, very slight coolant leak, but it's so slight it's like not even worth fixing. There's still coolant in there. This is a bit of a shambles because it was leaking, and so I don't quite know what's going on here, but we need to basically just get a longer one of these so that it doesn't kink itself. And then this is leaking, and we have a new one over here. So if we can replace that and the lines that go down, everything under the bonnet will be pretty much brand new, and it'll run remarkably well for a 380,000 K car.
Replacing the power steering reservoir was a messy but thankfully relatively easy job. We undid all the hose clamps and the banjo bolt holding the main line to the pump, and the fluid was drained out into a bucket with the new reservoir installed. After a fluid top-up, we confirmed the power steering worked perfectly as before. So, we've replaced the power steering reservoir and hoses to the pump and the cooler, and then the next job is to sort out all the cable tie situation holding on the fuel regulator. Significantly oversized tool for the job.
Holy hell.
The hose clamps were undone and replaced, unfortunately, with useless plastic ones.
You've got to be joking.
Huh?
The bolt's made of plastic.
Oh! Hey?
It's made out of plastic, and the
You've broken a plastic bolt, so now you can't undo it.
yeah, but now I can't undo it. Well, that's on pretty tight already, so it's never coming
So
off.
I think you just leave it.
Who would design a metal clip with a plastic bolt?
BMW.
Not to worry, now there were no more cable ties or fuel leaks, and finally we bolted the coolant overflow tank back onto the firewall properly. With it starting and running just as averagely as before, I'd say that's job done. onto the exterior. With it sitting outside unused and unwashed for some time, a significant amount of oxidation formed on the bonnet, roof and boot lid, which I really wanted to get polished off. I began by giving it a good wash, clearing off all the road spray and grit, and the wheels remarkably came up astonishingly well with a good wash and some new centre caps. Then it was time to start polishing. I had 3 or 4 goes at really cutting back the oxidation on the bonnet, but it was extremely difficult.
I still don't actually know what this stuff is. I don't know if it's just oxidation from the sun or what, but either way, with a really solid 2 or 3 stage cut, it's coming up. You can clearly see where I've done.
With enough time, I'm sure you could get it to look immaculate, but with time running out, I got it as good as I could and skimmed the rest of the bodywork to make it look at least 7 or 8 out of 10 overall. Realistically, this car needs a full respray because of all the stone chips, but I feel I revitalised the paintwork quite well. To finish it off, I used Bowden's bead machine to seal the paint and took to vacuuming the interior. I took out the mismatched E34 floor mats, revealing the very 1980s red carpets. The floors and seats were cleaned, the dash wiped down, and after a few days' work, I had it looking pretty darn good for a 35-year-old car.
Driving my 1989 BMW 530i manual. I am actually really thoroughly enjoying driving this car. It's so lovely to drive on just like a Sunday afternoon because it's so comfortable, and it's not the slowest thing in the world, if I'm honest. It scoots up to 100 k's, no problems at all, that's for sure. But I'm just amazed how quickly the engine revs down, eh? Like it's kind of like a luxury car, but with a still really rev-happy and zingy engine. And overall, I think that it's actually a really great driving car. You can turn it into a corner, even though it leans a lot. You put your foot down, hang the back end out a little bit, and it just eats it up. So easy to find all the gears, and it still just has that BMW magic to it. So I'm really happy with the 130. I'm happy the 530i is going off to a good home. Angel's got his Z4 now, so I'm pretty well set, and I will look forward to seeing you again next time on The Power.